Blog Talk Radio.
You're listening to Talent Culture's T-Chat Radio. The World of Work is live now on the radio with Megan M. Biro and Kevin W. Grossman, because middle initials count.
Come down, turn the radio on. Take my hand, turn the radio on. Come on, my favorite song, babe. Let's dance, turn the radio on.
Welcome everybody out there in Talent Culture T-Chat Show land. It is Wednesday, June 10th at 10 a.m. Pacific if you're on the West Coast, which all of our guests are, or 1 p.m. on the East Coast, which my lovely and talented co-founder, Megan M. Biro, is at. Megan, how are you today?
I'm doing really well. I'm like totally blown away by community at the moment, and the fact that we have so many friends and colleagues with us today in different hotel rooms and conferences. So this is awesome.
So that, and I hope that our guests were dancing to that intro music. So that's part of it too. And then I know that there was already some industrial accidents and spills going on at the Talent 42 conference for this show today right now. But we can ask our guests about that in just a second. So here's the deal: we're gonna get going. We've got three great guests today. And first and foremost, I want to thank all of our friends and sponsors, though, especially DICE, who not only continues to be a loyal, ongoing friend and sponsor of the Talent Culture T-Chat show, but also they are specifically are sponsoring this show today. And again, they're up there with our guests and all the great technical recruiting folks at the Talent 42 conference up in Seattle, Washington. So that's a shout out to them. We also want to thank Jai, Recruitify Talent.
Giving a shout out to you guys over at Talent. You guys are rocking it in Seattle. So keep up the great work.
Indeed. And then Recruitify TalentWise, Hootsuite, IBM Career Builder, PeopleFluent, of course, Silk Road, and our social analytics partner, HR Marketer Insight. And then, of course, our ongoing shout out to the Candidate Experience Awards and the Talent Board, which we're big supporters of. So let's get to the topic, because we got lots of guests, lots of great insight that we're going to share today. Last week we talked about strategies that help CHROs sleep at night, not keep them up, but sleep, actually get the work done. And this week we're going to talk about the art of candidate engagement. And what we mean by that is there's lots of recruiting issues today for talent acquisition leaders and recruiters that are very complex and in this competitive hiring economy that we live and work in today. One of the toughest challenges, of course, is recruiting in-demand tech talent and how to engage this elusive talent pool. A quick statistic, I want to reference DICE's recent tech candidate sentiment survey, which is the fact that candidates understand that recruiters use publicly available data to research them, the candidates, and get a total person view before making that first call to provide a better candidate experience. Nearly 50% of those respondents said that they wish recruiters would do more to research them on their background before they call. So, again, the answer, what we're going to discuss today, is all about relationship building and empowering recruiting technology. And if you are listening to the show live streaming today, please make sure to tweet along. And then at 1:30 Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, we Twitter chat. There we go. Megan.
Have you taken a breath?
I know. Well, I wanted to make sure to get that great DICE data in there, right? So there you go.
Okay, data's where it's at, but even more important than data is people and talent.
Yeah.
And today I am really excited to introduce our guest. I'm going to start off with the one, the only Johnny Campbell at Social Talent on the Twitters. Johnny is the founder and CEO of Social Talent. So welcome, Johnny. What say you today? Give us a little backdrop on who you are and what's making you feel good or bad today.
Oh, you don't want to know what that is, Meg. I could offend some of your listeners if I really told you what makes me and what makes you feel good and bad. But I'll tell you the good stuff instead, will I?
Do it.
The clean version. So thanks for having me, guys. My name's Johnny. I run a company called Social Talent. What I do is we try and educate recruiters on how to be more efficient through an online learning platform. We certify, qualify recruiters to recruit better, to try and really change the way that our sector hires, attracts, finds talent. And I'm in Seattle this week at Talent 42, and we're talking about a candidate engagement here as well, because I've been doing this for years. I've been recruiting for nearly 20 years, and we've been teaching people for maybe 5 years. And I look at a hierarchy of the needs of a recruiter. From you need to give people the skills to find talent first. Once you've succeeded in doing that, and once they've got tools like OpenWeb or they're learning how to source online, the next challenge is how do I get these great people I'm finding to actually talk to me? And I love moving on from the sourcing conversation to the engagement, because it's to me where it gets really, really interesting.
Same here, Johnny.
Excellent.
I mean, this is still a business of people and hiring people. Technology and social is sexy and all, but let's be honest. I'm somebody who also spent time for many years as an agency recruiter and moved on to other roles in recruiting before, I moved into content and social like I do now. But so important, Johnny. So, I appreciate you kind of shedding some light on that and getting to kind of the real deal of what the profession is about. So next up, I'm going to introduce you to a lady by the name of Sarah Fleischman. She's at Butters Recruit on Twitter. And Sarah has 11 years of recruiting industry experience and another 10 years in management that contributes to her very interesting and well-rounded background. So tell us a little bit more about Sarah F. What say you?
Hello, Miss Megan. It's a pleasure to be on here again. And I am right now I'm over at Hewlett-Packard, and I'm recruiting geeks over here for our brain, and loving every minute of it, and just really excited to be on this call today.
Excellent.
Thank you for being here. And last but definitely not least is a friend and colleague of both Kevin and I's, Stacey Donovan Zappar, at Stacey Zappar on the Twitters, and equally and probably even more famous on LinkedIn. So Stacey is an 18-year recruiting veteran for Fortune 500 tech companies and founder of Tenfold, a boutique recruiting consultancy and training firm. Welcome, Stacey.
Good morning. How is everybody? Or good afternoon?
Good afternoon.
Excellent.
Yeah, good afternoon where we are, but we're doing all right. We are really enjoying this conversation right now, and know that, each of you on this podcast with us right now brings so much unique flavor to this industry and voice. So tell us just a little bit about what's inspiring you right now, Stacey.
Yeah.
Gosh, a lot of good stuff is happening. I'm having fun playing with some new tools. Right now, I just started out with a couple new clients. I'm doing some good stuff with TripAdvisor. We can maybe talk about this in a little bit. It's definitely an engagement tool, but we're doing some good stuff with a Facebook group there, where we have candidates talking to hiring managers and engineers, talking to recruiters and potential employees and overseas, talking to product managers in Boston. It's really, really good stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, some good things happening. But yeah, we're playing with new ideas and having a good time with it.
Oh, that's what it's all about. I want to give actually a very special shout out. I noticed on the Twitters my former employer, Winter Wyman & Company, here in Massachusetts. Thanks for being here. I remember the days when I was working that recruiting desk with you all, and I remember when TripAdvisor was a startup. My team over in the software technology group at Winter Wyman was helping grow that company. So that's very, very fun factoid, and it's funny how we all come full circle here, right?
Yep, it's crazy.
Indeed.
That's awesome.
Hey, Stacey.
TripAdvisor started over top of a pizza shop in Boston 15 years ago. This little space upstairs from a little pizza place. So the pizza place is still there too.
Excellent.
Stacey, I'm glad that you're not the most connected person on LO. I just wanted to make sure to get that out there.
What's LO again,
So,
right?
That would be a problem.
Yeah,
exactly. I feel like. Yeah.
Hey, listen, we've got a lot of stuff we want to try to talk about during this short radio time, and then of course jump on the Twitters after that for the Twitter chat. But the first thing I think we'd love to hear, since you've been at this great tech recruiting conference called Talent 42 up there in Seattle, Washington. Can each of you just give us like one main takeaway that you can share with the audience today from this year's conference? And I would start with Johnny first.
I'd say put me on the spot first, Kevin.
Of course, yeah.
So I guess what really struck me was how at Talent 42 it's much less about the tech in tech recruiting and much more about the marketing side, like what I would call marketing in terms of building communities, about looking at the candidate experience, the customer experience, about what does brand look like, how do you position that, what is your workflow in terms of how it basically treats the candidate, making sure that these things are top of mind for recruiters and hiring managers in the organization. But, it's all about that influence piece. Whereas a couple of years ago, Kevin, you I see you at the same events, and the conversation has been around the tech. It's more interesting now. People are kind of saying, okay, we've got the tech, we're using the tech. What is the differentiator now? What's next? And that's been a big theme from Talent 42. It's the storytelling of what have we done with this stuff? How has it worked for us? How have we put our stamp on it? Our personality? How have we told our story with this stuff?
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Sarah. What about you?
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree. I think that's one of the things that I love about this conference, that it's so focused on the technology industry and how to engage with those candidates and really how are we going to win the war on talent? I mean, people are always talking about the war on talent, but it seriously is. With 1.5% unemployment rate in technology across the country, I mean, that's just that's just nuts. You think about that, and we're constantly tripping over each other on all of these candidates and all of these people within the industry. And what really stands out is telling that story. Like Johnny said, it's how are you telling your story, and how are you engaging with that? And the thing that I love about Talent 42 is that it's not always just recruiters that are getting up there talking about how we do it and what makes us different and unique and special. I love that there are hiring managers up there, and that they talk about what they're doing and how they're partnering with recruiting, and that that they get people that get it. I love that. I love that, seeing that that true partnership, and highlighting how that can really work in an ideal world. I mean, we always strive for that, and there's always going to be quirks, but it's great to kind of take some of those unique ideas, some of those out of the box ideas, and take them back to your hiring managers. And I'm a big fan of saying, hey, look at what this company is doing. Look at what they're doing, and why aren't we doing that?
And that's a huge motivator. To interrupt you for a second, that's what a lot of this is about. It's just like, we're feeling something and we're seeing something called social and engagement and messaging and storytelling unfold, because these are real people behind the brand, and there's so much lurking. There is so much lurking going on right now still.
Exactly. I mean, even though, we've become so technologically, reliant, as it's unfolded, everybody's looking for that human connection again. And I think that's how it's evolved in recruitment. It's come back to that, we want that connection. We want to see how it relates to us. And I love that that's the kind of thing that Talent 42 brings it back to. And it's like, how do we bring that into our organization, and how can we implement that?
Excellent. Stacey, thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's been a great conference. I would agree with Sarah on the point that it was very cool to have not only recruiters up on stage, but also engineers and hiring managers, and getting their perspective on attracting talent and what it takes to evangelize the brand, and what it takes to to think like an engineer and put yourself in their shoes when you're trying to engage. From a recruiting perspective, we often kind of think about ourselves, but it's really important to put ourselves in the shoes of the engineers and the people that we're trying to recruit, and what would appeal to them, and what type of outreach would be effective with them. And kind of look at it from the perhaps the best perspective and not the one that automatically comes naturally. I would say the other piece that I've been really, I've heard really great things about is at Talent 42 is the sourcing labs. We broke out yesterday, and there were 10 different tables with about 10 or 15 people at each table, and we kind of did a bunch of deep dive sessions on sourcing and really got our hands dirty, and it was a good hour and 15 minutes, so we got to really kind of dive deep, and a bunch of my team members are here, so I heard some feedback because they all kind of split up, and really good feedback there. I think anytime you can really dive down deeper and not just sit in an audience and listen is always a big plus at a conference. So that's been a big one for me.
Awesome. Right?
Indeed.
So, we talk a lot about how sourcing and recruiting can be kind of a frenetic experience. Why, and we can, start off with Johnny on this one, why do so many recruiters and hiring managers still kind of use this spray and pray approach? What is that about? And is that still happening, or are we just assuming that from here? What's your take on that?
So, to me, Megan, right, most people are quite short-term in their thinking about everything, right? So you look at the challenge of, I have a search result of 1,000 people. How can I reach as many of those as possible because I don't know which ones are interested in my brand? So the idea is if I can click a button that gets a message to 1,000 of them quickly, then the ones that are interested will come back to me and my job is done and I can get to talking to them. And I still get this argument. People go, well, that's really quick, and then 3 people come back to you, and it's great. I can then talk to those 3 people, and it's brilliant, and I can get them in an interview, and it's all good. It's forgetting the fact that what we're not trying to talk to 3 people as soon as possible. We're trying to fill one job with the best candidate, and it's that's 3 steps ahead of the thinking. And when you're focused on the next step, you'll look at the shortest way to get to the next step, and that's usually the wrong way. It's difficult to step back and go, what are we actually trying to achieve here? I'm trying to find a really good candidate for this role to actually then take the job, work with our organization, and do a really good job. You don't think that way. You think, how can I get people on the phone very quickly, and then I'll worry about the next stage, which is whatever. So I think that's really the problem. It's you can sit in a conference room and you can think about it in theory and go, yeah, we're here to hire the best talent. Brilliant. Yeah. We all know that. Then you go back to your desk and go, I need to talk to 4 people as soon as possible. And you go, you revert to the thing that you think is the quickest way to get there. And that's usually, if not always, the wrong thing.
I want to hear a little bit from Sarah, the why around why aren't talent acquisition leaders emphasizing relationship investment, or are they, in your opinion, Sarah?
I've been lucky in that I've worked at a lot of, great companies. Currently I'm at HP. I've worked at Amazon, Microsoft, Expedia, and I think that I've gotten really, really lucky in that a lot of those organizations, they really do care about that engagement and thinking about how can we do this and how can we look at it proactively and help change that mindset with hiring managers to go from, very, very reactionary and I just need to get it out there. I just need to, I need to get my job post out there and take a look at the applicants. And it's like, you got to, it's a whole mindset difference. The hiring managers that we're working with today, they've been in the industry for a long time, so that's the way it's always been. And it's difficult to change one's patterns. You think about that as we go through our daily lives, we're set in our patterns, and if you think about trying to change the way you do even one thing, think about trying to change the way that you do your breakfast in the morning. It's not so easy. You're going to maybe do it for a couple of days, but you're going to get maybe like, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to do it the easy way. Like Johnny said, like, by the time you get back to your desk, you're like, I'm just going to go back to, to doing it the other way. And it's really educating them on, no, we're looking at the long road. We're not looking at the now. And so, luckily, we've got some good leadership that actually does care about that, and they do take a look at that, and they're like, okay, we're going to make that investment, and we're going to back you, because when the hiring managers and when the clients are pushing back and going, well, we're not seeing it in the now, and they're going to go, no, but we're not in this for the now. We're in this for the long road. So we need to do these. We need to build these relationships.
Hey, Sarah.
Yeah.
Sarah, banana and bowl of cereal. Help me. All right.
Banana and a bowl of cereal. So
that you reference. No, it's the same thing over and over. That's me, right? Got to break out of that. Anyway, there you go.
So maybe throw in every other day. Start throwing in, some yogurt instead of cereal.
Okay.
So
yes. Yeah. There you go. Excellent.
I did an efficiency, thing with Stanford. It was really great, and it takes 21 days to set new patterns, but you have to do it 21 days in a row.
Wow.
So it's difficult. It is difficult,
right.
And so we've got to be persistent, and we're not going to get a hiring manager every day, So it's oftentimes it takes years to change that shift, that mind shift.
Yeah, indeed.
Speaking of mind shift, I'm going to go to the Wild West for a moment, which is, a topic this topic is very near and dear to me. I'm getting more involved in writing and talking about STEM, right? So I want to kind of direct this question over to Stacey. It continues to be kind of Wild Westy when it comes to tech recruiting today. What kind of crazy experiences can you share about sourcing and hiring developers, as well as, say, STEM talent from your perspective, Stacey? Or what are you hearing from your clients on STEM specifically?
Sorry, some crazy stories about recruiting techies or...
Yeah, about recruiting techies, and then anything that relates to STEM and the hiring of this type of talent. In your experience or what you're experiencing now with some of your clients, what are we doing around tech hiring as it relates to STEM? What are you seeing? What kind of trends are out there, et cetera?
Okay, yeah, no, I hadn't really thought about it from that perspective before, yeah. But yeah, I think right now the thing that I'm seeing a lot of is definitely Twitter. Folks are out there right now, and they're engaging with people there. Wherever the people are out talking, they're joining those conversations. And certainly there's a big STEM community out there on the Twitterverse, of course. But I would say meetup groups are another place that are kind of a little bit out of the box. We've got folks going to meetups. We've got folks joining meetup groups online, messaging people through those groups, university communities and things like that. I'm not an expert in the STEM space. You can probably see me blushing through the phone here trying to think of ways that I would tackle that one.
Well, it sounds like
certainly,
what you're saying.
We all have some. Johnny can talk to this one for sure.
Yeah, let's
hear
Johnny's take
the dice.
Well, yeah, there's an interesting one. Sometimes it's the non-traditional places. Like I don't know if you saw, Megan, that Forbes picked up on Dice's recent campaign where they used billboard ads, which most of us talking here on a Twitter chat are thinking, what, billboard ads? But it was a massively successful campaign that was tongue-in-cheek, showing tech nerds, STEM candidates as kind of underwear models on billboards, because most tech candidates, developers, are commuting for long hours to get to jobs in the likes of the Valley, and the attention that you can get on a billboard, somebody in traffic in rush hour, and then translate that to online can be quite powerful. It's trying to... I think with tech, it's not always the traditional mediums that work. You can find that a very old school medium combined with new school can actually be the campaign that stands out.
And that there is a connection of dots between Stacey and yours take on it. It's, everyone's hanging out in various places. To Stacey's point, there's various LinkedIn groups that you can go on in, engage, and discover STEM talent, So very interesting.
And I'd like to jump in on that as kind of like an unusual thing. One of the things that we've done at HP is we started a high school internship program this summer. This year is our first year, and it's within our HP networking labs up in Sacramento. We partnered with local high schools, and that's the way that, again, looking at that long-term road because, we have we're short in STEM talent here in the United States, and trying to get that younger generation involved. And I think that's, I love the campaign that DICE did, because, again, it's tongue-in-cheek. It's putting that, we're so used to seeing, remember the Revenge of the Nerds, that typical picture of nerds, but it was putting it in, like, no, they're funny.
Right.
They can be somewhat sexy. It's showing it in a different light. Like, they're not the typical, like, what we used to see in the 80s.
No, and nerds are sexy now. I mean, nerds have become, the new sexy, let's be honest, in the last decade or so. Come on. So what
it's
about
the new hot.
What about some of the juicy data? Let's talk a little bit about some surveys that have been done recently, Kevin. I mean, that's what's speaking to us, right? It's not only everyone's experience of you three and what, Kevin and I are experiencing on social and groups and engagement, but where's the data behind some of what we're talking about right now?
Well, yeah, and what I'd love to do though is because we're down to just the last few minutes, and we've touched on this throughout. Each of you have hit on these points, but I think real quick, just each of you could summate 30 seconds or so around how do you balance relationship building with recruiting technologies like DICE's Open Web and others that exist out there today, that to improve speed and quality of hire and remain competitive at the same time. We've been talking about moving from tech to relationship building, but we still got a balance, right? So why don't we start with Stacey this time and work backwards? Just really quickly summate, how do you balance that relationship, Stacey, in recruiting, and how do you recommend?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think the best way to engage with people is to form some sort of personal connection or find some sort of commonality that you have with that person. Break the ice, start the conversation. Like we've said before, the primary goal is not to get them to say, yes, I want the job. The primary goal when you're reaching out is just to get them to say yes to a phone call and to agree to talk to you. So if you're using tech, you can do a lot of really quick research and find out about the person, know a little bit about them, read their blog, see their LinkedIn, see a little bit about their code on Stack Overflow or GitHub, something like that. So tech is a great way to do a little bit of research before you actually reach out to the person, so you have something tangible and specific to talk about and get that conversation rolling. So, yeah, that's tech has made life infinitely easier for those of us that are cold calling and sourcing and reaching out to people, every day. So, yeah, big fan of all these social aggregators and people aggregator tools that are out there. Definitely my favorite thing to come around in recent years.
Awesome. Excellent. Sarah, what about you? Do you concur?
Yes, absolutely. DICE Open Web is one of my favorites because they've put a lot of work into the product in the last couple of years since it first came out in beta in 2012. And one of the things that I love is that it actually shows you the networks that they are most active in. So it's super easy, and I don't have to sit there and dig. I know exactly where they are spending most of their time. So I can go right to that source, and I can take a look. Like if it's GitHub, I can take a look at their repositories and what projects they're working on the most. And that way I know exactly how to reach out to them and talk to them, and reach them on a personal level. Excellent.
Thanks, Sarah. And Johnny, what about you? You touched on this at the beginning.
Kevin, do you remember that Mel Gibson movie, What Women Want?
Say that again? The what?
Of course we do.
Yeah, Mel Gibson, What Women Want. Before everyone started hating Mel Gibson, he made some good movies, right? And What Women Want, if you remember, was the guy who could read women's mind and he could make everyone happy. Like, this to me is what tech recruiting today, with tools like Open Web, with the data you have out there, allows you to do, is you can actually begin to see what people are thinking. The candidate, that used to be just a blank resume presented in a structured way that the candidate wants you to read. You can move past that and actually get into their thinking. You can check out what they're doing online, what they're posting about, what their tweets are about, who they're talking to, what they're into, what forums they're going to, what groups, what communities they're a part of. And you can get that snapshot in a couple of minutes. And if you're smart, you'll change your approach. You'll adjust it. Like Stacey was big on talking yesterday about personalization, and we all know that personalization is the key, but personalization with that kind of superpowered information where you can really tap into someone's psyche, make it so personalized about what they're thinking about right now, who they are, that's candidate engagement done really, really well. And to me, that's the real power of these different technology tools and the amount of data that's out there. And it's mentioned STEM candidates, Kevin, a few minutes ago.
Hey, Johnny.
The typical STEM candidate is going to have a higher visibility and usage of online tools. So the data you can get on them to personalize that, to make it a really good approach, is just so much more than what I used to recruit for. Back in the day, Kevin, was accountants. You just don't find the same information on accountants online. Yeah, that's awesome. When we actually the live stream just ran out, so we'll jump all of us onto Twitter, and we'd love to see. We're going to see all of you on Twitter as well, right? Sarah, Stacey, and Johnny. Absolutely, guys.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank
you all
everybody.
so much.
We'll catch you over there.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Cheers,
right.
community.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.